First of all, let me thank you for your assistance in this investigation into the death of Mrs. Melanie Martin. You have, I think, the scene of crime report, some plans of the annex to the Burr Island Hotel, and some idea of where people were prior to the death. I have asked each of the suspects to come into the library to answer some of my questions. Can you make some notes as we go through, please? We might well need them later. Let's meet Quentin Martin. Mr. Martin, Quentin Martin.
Yes, that's me.
Can you describe the events of the afternoon and evening of Wednesday, December the 15th?
Well, in the afternoon I was picked up from Whiteside Prison by Auntie Michelle. It was about 2-ish, and it took around, 2.5 hours to get to Burr Island. Mother was out somewhere, which is exactly the sort of warm welcome that I'd expected from her. So Michelle introduced me to Matthew. I was feeling a bit tired, so I went straight to my room. I say it was my room. It was the room I'd been allocated, and there I slept until the dinner gong.
Coming out of prison just before Christmas, you could be forgiven for being a bit excited, a feeling of happiness.
You've never been released from prison, have you? 18 months inside is enough to make the outside seem a bit odd. And then add the fact that my immediate relatives seem to have suddenly remembered that I exist again. Sleep was the only option. A way of readjusting. Judging by what happened at dinner, I wish I hadn't even heard the dinner gong.
What exactly did happen at dinner?
The most perfect bloody row. It's absolutely years since all four of us have been in the same house together, let alone the same room, or sharing the same meal. Used to specialize in rows, but even this one was something special.
How did the row start?
God knows. Becca started grousing me about helping myself before anybody else, or something equally trivial. Then Mother got all thundery, then that dumbhead Robert started slamming the silver around, and it sparked off from there. Made the mess all at Whiteside seem like a picnic.
Did you get involved?
Not at all. I was trying to calm things down, but they had their hackles up, and good and proper this time, so it was a bit of a waste of effort.
What happened then?
Everybody started disappearing. Napkins were flying everywhere.
Who left first?
Mother, as you would expect, chuntering to herself, then Father. No, sorry, it might have been Matthew, or whatever he's called. He excused himself and rushed after Mother, then Father, looking upset as usual, then Rebecca, then Dumbhead, sorry, Robert. Auntie Michelle and me were left looking at each other.
And then what?
Well, Michelle glided off, making noises about trying to calm the situation. Snowball's chance in a furnace came to mind, knowing the family's record.
And what about you? What did you do?
Me? I quietly finished my meal alone. We didn't get a great deal of turkey steak in Whiteside, you know. I was just helping myself to the chef's sherry trifle when that blessed shouting and screaming started.
When they discovered your mother's body?
I suppose that was it. I thought it was another little family bust-up breaking out, but then I heard Auntie Michelle calling for the ambulance.
How long were you on your own before you heard the screaming?
I would have thought it was about 25 minutes. Can't be sure exactly.
That sounds a very specific time for someone who isn't sure.
After 18 months in prison, locked up for 23 hours each day, I reckon I'm an expert at the passing of time.
For the moment, Quentin, thank you. You can go. Now that was interesting. Always is interesting when you meet up with an ex-con. Michael Martin is next. Mr. Martin, may I offer my condolences. Although you were divorced, I imagine you are still rather sad.
Sad and shocked.
I'll try to be careful with my questions, but I must get to the bottom of this. First off, I need to know what time you arrived at Burr Island.
Dinner was to be served at 7, so I arrived virtually as the gong was sounding.
So, 7-ish.
Yes, the 7 o'clock news started on the radio just as I was turning into the drive. Melanie was in reception as I was parking, and she took me into the lounge to show off that awful Greek Adonis who's attached to her at the moment.
This was your first meeting with your ex-wife for some time. How did she seem?
Oh, same as usual, really, unchanged. In short, her usual hateful, spiteful self. She'd managed to be rude to most of us even before the starter.
And your son, Quentin? How did he seem?
Subdued, I think, would be the best word, but given the way he's behaved in the last 10 years, a subdued Quentin, no matter how slightly, is probably a good thing.
I understand that the meal was disrupted.
Disrupted? Yes, that's the word. Rebecca, my daughter, has always been liable to put on a bit of a sulk, even more so when her brother is present. Melanie could never take this. What with Christmas and the significance of the occasion, she was slightly on edge.
On edge?
Well, we all were, I think. Even in the most wonderfully happy family, a gathering of this size and complexity would cause, well, certain difficulties to arise. People confronting tensions, tensions that exist between them and the family. And given this family and its history, something like this was very likely to happen. And in every type of argument and every type of family violence, this family has seen it all. Tantrums, tempers, fisticuffs, even being stabbed by a fork. I've still got the scars of that one. The hurt and the wounds are there for all to see.
So, the argument was not a surprise?
No, not at all. We were all looking to do too much and do it all at the same time. And Christmas, presents and getting together to exchange them, meeting with ex-partners, new partners, wayward offspring, parents that have failed you, siblings that argue. Just one of those would have been enough to cope with. Put them all together and you've got crazy, sorry, wrong word to use.
When the argument heated up, who was the first to leave the table?
Well, Melanie, followed by the Greek Adonis. I went to the bathroom.
The bathroom?
Yes, the one on the ground floor. I just needed a minute or two to myself.
To yourself? What's that mean?
Well, I'd just forgotten how vicious Melanie could be. She'd got a full head of steam going, and it just reminded me of how much we all hated her. I'd rather not go into the detail of what was said, particularly now that she's dead. That would be wrong. It's strange, Inspector. This afternoon I hated that woman for what she'd done to me. Wrong, though, to let the spitefulness live on.
When did you emerge from the bathroom?
Well, after about 10 or 15 minutes. I had heard a lot of people thundering around, stamping up the stairs and so on. When I came back to the dining room, it was empty, so I went off to try and find Quentin. Being the first day out of prison, I feared that Melanie would react badly to seeing him and throw him out of the hotel. That wasn't on. He needs to be given a chance. I looked in the lounge and was trying to get into his room when I bumped into Melanie's sister, Michelle. She forced open the bedroom door and there she was. There was blood. Lots of blood. Blood everywhere.
I have a funny feeling about him, One of life's nearly men. Now what's he got? Let's have a chat with the Adonis, shall we? Some questions, if you don't mind, Mr. Falcon. Matthew, when did you get to Burr Island?
At about 4 in the afternoon, Constable.
Detective Inspector.
Whatever. Melanie said she had too much work to do, so I walked around the island and later on the beach.
This is your first visit?
Yes, Melanie and I met in London or Scotland. This was my first visit here and the first meeting with the Martin family.
You'd not met any of them before?
Only Michelle. I was quite nervous.
The argument over dinner, how exactly did that start?
It was the children. It looks as though the girl is jealous of the boy, and he was calling her names. Melanie was definitely on the side of her son, which I suppose is not unusual for a mother. Then she gets furious with her husband, her ex-husband. Then she says something to Michelle, something I don't understand. Then she's off, away from the table and out of the room, like something possessed.
And did you follow her?
Of course. I was worried about her.
Where did she go?
Upstairs.
Where upstairs?
Her suite, her sitting room. But she's so infuriated she won't talk to me, except to shout out to tell me to go and, well, you know, so I go.
Where did you go?
Not far. I went to her bedroom, our bedroom. I'm very upset. She's upset, Inspector.
Detective, Inspector.
And I don't like arguing with her. I'm in there a few minutes when I hear the crying and the panic. And then they tell me she's killed herself.
You say you spoke to her in the sitting room, but her body was found in one of the other bedrooms.
I am right. I spoke with her in the sitting room. Maybe you think I'm wrong, but she is the crazy one. She cut her neck with a knife. Now, if someone's that crazy, surely they can walk into a different room.
All right. Look, I have to inform you, this is a murder investigation, not a suicide.
Not a suicide? Not a suicide? You mean someone killed her? One of us? Well, then someone else is crazy. What a family, what a family. All of them are crazy. It's in their blood. Even Robert's crazy, and he's not even from this family.
Yeah, all right. What makes you think that Robert is crazy?
After Melanie told me to leave her alone, I heard him banging and shrieking. Open the bloody door. We have to sort it out now.
And you're certain it wasn't someone else?
Of course.
How?
I knew it was Robert's voice. Believe me, I know it was him.
What happened to Michelle?
Well, it wasn't her. For a start, she couldn't shout. She is the mouse of the family. Melanie says horrible things to her. Not just one thing, lots of them. Michelle, well, she says nothing.
And was Robert banging the door?
Yes. Took my breath away. At first I thought it was Melanie, but then I realized that's ridiculous because the voice is different and I'm in her bedroom. She could walk in without banging.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Falcon. That's the deceased's boyfriend. Not much remorse there, was there? Now, here's Michelle. You must be very upset, Miss Downing. Your sister.
She's gone. And I don't know whether that's good or bad.
I hope you can help me. What time was it when you got to Burr Island?
I picked Quentin from Whiteside, and we got here about 4:30. Quentin found his room, and I went to the library and read until dinner.
Did you see anyone there?
No. Oh, well, Melanie popped her head round the door at some point, and we exchanged a quick word, but apart from that, no.
There was an argument at the dinner table. What caused it?
Oh, I suppose it was Quentin that got it underway. He was teasing his sister, who took it the wrong way.
What was he teasing her about?
Oh, almost anything. It was quite amicable, just name-calling.
Why?
Childhood nicknames. She's always climbing over things, so Minky was one name, sort of female monkey. It got changed and altered over time. Becca got upset and started sulking, and that's always got to Melanie. She just can't stand it. She flew into one of her black moods, and people started dropping like flies.
At what point did you leave the table?
After everyone else had run away, except Quentin, I went up to see if I could calm things down. Not much luck, obviously.
Who did you see?
I saw Robert storming about. He was very worked up, and I saw Michael, but only briefly.
Where was he?
In his room. He seemed very upset. Actually, he seemed very upset earlier, during the evening. He arrived at the dinner table in a bit of a state, pale and shaky, almost as though he'd been crying.
How long did you spend with him?
Not very long. He's my sister's ex-husband.
So?
Well, Melanie was very possessive and very good at leaping to the wrong conclusion, so we're all, how shall I say, very careful about doing something, anything, that might be misconstrued.
Where did you go after that?
I went to look for Becca. I'm quite close to the children. I thought I might just be able to calm her down.
Did you find her?
No. Yes. Well, sort of. As I was walking down the corridor towards her bedroom, I came across Robert, who was pacing up and down the corridor, talking to someone in the bathroom. I turned and went back down the stairs.